I was only supposed to fix the cabinet hinge. That was it. Quick job. Get in, tighten 2 screws, thank her for the iced tea, and leave. But there's no such thing as quick when she's standing that close. Her name's Elena. My stepmom, technically. My dad married her when I was 17, barely even a grown-up, and they didn't last long. Maybe a year and a half. He moved out, she stayed. Quiet neighborhood, wide porch, sun-faded mailbox. Nothing ever really happens here. Until today. It's been years since they split, but I never stopped running into her. Grocery store, gym. One time at the DMV. Always weird. Always polite. She'd smile, ask how I was doing, but never too much. Then 2 weeks ago she called me out of the blue. Said the kitchen cabinet was loose and she remembered I was good with tools. I almost said no. But now here I am. And I can't stop thinking about her legs. She's barefoot, standing behind me as I work. The floor creaks when she shifts her weight. She's wearing this green summer dress I've never seen before. Thin fabric, loose at the shoulders, hugging just enough to make me forget every moral line I ever drew for myself. So, she says behind me, still good with your hands? My grip tightens on the screwdriver. I answer without turning. Guess we'll see. The silence after that isn't awkward. Something else. Not quite charged. But not nothing. The screw strips. I swear under my breath and feel her come a step closer. You always get that intense when you're focused? She asks, teasing. Her voice is soft, low. A little playful, like she's testing something out loud for the first time. I don't know what to say. She notices. I hear her exhale behind me, like a small laugh meant only for herself. I finish the hinge, close the cabinet. She leans down beside me, peering in like she wants to check my work. But she's too close. I smell coconut lotion and laundry sheets. Her bare arm brushes mine. That's not going anywhere now, I mutter. My voice cracks slightly, and I curse myself for it. We both stand. She doesn't step back. The moment hangs, and then she says it. Quiet, almost like a joke. This dress wasn't meant for your dad. I blink. Sorry? I ask even though I heard her perfectly. She smiles, that tight-lipped, careful smile people give when they're not sure how far they're allowed to go. I said, she repeats. This dress wasn't meant for your dad. She doesn't explain. She doesn't have to. Her eyes stay on mine for a beat too long. I feel heat crawl up my neck. I glance down and she doesn't flinch. A timer goes off in the kitchen, something in the oven. She turns slowly, like nothing happened. You hungry? She asks, already walking away. I stare at the back of her dress, the way it sways slightly with each step. And I know I should leave, but I don't. I should have made an excuse. Should have said I had somewhere to be. But I followed her into the kitchen anyway, still clutching my tools like they could anchor me to something safe. She slid a tray of roasted vegetables from the oven, steam rising in soft spirals. The scent of garlic and thyme filled the room. Too warm, too domestic, like a memory I shouldn't have. I wasn't expecting to feed you, she said, setting the tray down. But there's plenty. I shouldn't. She looked over her shoulder. I want you to. My throat went dry. She turned away before I could answer, already grabbing plates, moving like this wasn't strange, like I was just some friend dropping by. But I wasn't. And she wasn't just a woman in a green dress. She was my dad's ex-wife. She taught me how to drive stick. She once yelled at a teacher who called me lazy. And now, she was plating food like we'd always done this. Like the years between didn't matter. I sat slowly, the wooden chair creaking under me. She poured water into mismatched glasses. I noticed her bracelet, the silver one she used to wear when she and my dad went to dinner parties. She still wore it. I haven't seen him in a while, I said quietly. She didn't look up. Me neither. Her voice had something brittle in it, like she was balancing between bitterness and indifference, but couldn't find either fully. I watched her stir her food without eating. Her knuckles were tight. "Can I ask you something?" I said. She looked at me. I regretted it instantly, the way her expression shifted, softened, like she was bracing. "What was it like after?" I asked. She stared at me a second longer, then looked down. Her shoulders rose and fell. "Quiet," she said. "Not sad exactly. Just like the volume got turned down on everything." I didn't know what to say to that. "I didn't expect to miss noise," she added. "But I did." We sat with that. The fork scraped her plate. A fly tapped against the window once, then again. She glanced up suddenly, eyes narrowing, amused. "You always do that." "Do what?" "Watch me like you're waiting for something to make sense." I blinked. "I didn't mean." She reached across the table, fingers brushing my wrist, light like static. "It's not a bad thing," she said. "It's different." I didn't breathe. Her touch lingered just a second too long before she pulled back. "Can you take a look at the light in the hallway after dinner?" she asked, standing. "Yeah," I said. My voice came out rough. She smiled, not sweet, not polite, something else, then turned toward the hallway without waiting. I stared after her, chest tight. I should have left an hour ago, but I stood up anyway. The hallway was dim, lit only by a dusty skylight and a lamp with a flickering bulb. I stood on the second step of her old wooden stool, trying to unscrew the glass shade, pretending my hands weren't shaking. Elena stood behind me, arms folded, barefoot again. She was closer than she needed to be. I could feel her breath whenever I shifted. "This light's been dying for months," she said. "Just got used to living in the dark, I guess." She laughed, like it was nothing, but something about that sentence stuck. I turned my head, too fast, and bumped into her shoulder. "Sorry," I muttered. "It's okay," she said softly. "You always moved too fast." I didn't know what she meant, or maybe I did, but I couldn't hold her eyes long enough to ask. The light bulb came loose. I stepped down, barely missing her toes. We both laughed, nervous, overlapping. I handed her the dead bulb and our fingers touched again. Not accidental this time, not fully. "You used to flinch when I got this close," she said. "You were married to my dad," I said. Too fast, too sharp. I wanted to rewind it the second it came out, but she didn't flinch. "I'm not now." The air between us felt thinner than it should. I opened my mouth to say something, maybe nothing, when her phone rang on the kitchen counter. We both turned toward the sound. She hesitated. "Go ahead," I said, stepping back. She answered without looking at me. Her voice shifted, lighter, more performative. "Hey, yeah, I'm still home." "No, not tonight." A pause. "No, just someone fixing the cabinet. He's gone soon." The word landed hard. Gone. I didn't know why it stung. Or maybe I did. She hung up a moment later, not explaining. I didn't ask, but something had changed. "I didn't know you were seeing someone," I said, too casually. "I'm not," she replied. "He wants to think I am." I watched her for a second. Her mouth tightened, just barely. "I don't let people in anymore," she added, half to herself. "It's easier not to." She said it like it wasn't meant for me, like I'd overheard a part of her she didn't mean to reveal. I wanted to leave. I should have. But I didn't move. "Elena," I started. She looked up, and I stopped. I tried again, but she stepped toward me. "You keep doing that," she said, her voice almost amused. "Starting something, then stopping." She was close enough now that I could see the tiny scar near her collarbone, the one I'd never noticed before. Her perfume was faint, like it had faded and lingered at the same time. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. She reached past me toward the light switch, brushing my arm again. Slower this time. Deliberate. The hallway lit up. We stood there lit, exposed, inches apart. She didn't move, and I couldn't. The light buzzed overhead. We still hadn't moved. She was looking at me like she wanted something, or maybe like she'd already decided something, and was waiting for me to catch up. Her hand stayed near the switch, barely grazing my arm, but she didn't pull away. I keep thinking, she said suddenly, her voice low, about how quiet this house got after he left. Like, the air forgot how to move. I nodded, unsure why I felt it in my chest. She let out a breath. Not a sigh, but close. I used to wonder, she said, if you'd visit, after everything, after choosing him. I didn't choose anyone, I said, a little too fast. Her eyes flicked up to mine. No? She asked. You stopped coming around. I thought it was because you hated me. I didn't. Then why? Her voice cracked, just barely. I should have lied. But I was too tired, too exposed. Because I couldn't stop thinking about you. She blinked. Even when I tried, I added quieter. Even when I hated myself for it. The silence was immediate and absolute. Like the house was holding its breath. Her face didn't shift, but her hand dropped from the switch. She took one step back. I thought she was going to tell me to leave. Finally say what we both knew she should say. But instead, she asked, what exactly were you thinking? I looked at her. Really looked. Her bare feet. Her chipped nail polish. The way her mouth tightened like she was bracing for damage. You know what? I said. She swallowed hard. The tension between us was fraying at the edges. Not softening, just straining like something old and stretched too far. That's not fair, she whispered. None of this is, I said. A beat passed. I used to hear you in the mornings, she said. When you stayed here, you always got up before your dad. I'd listen from the hallway. Sometimes I wanted to say something. Sometimes I almost did. My jaw clenched. Why didn't you? Because you were a kid, she said, her voice breaking now. Because I was trying to be good. Because I loved your father. Or I thought I did. Or I was supposed to. She took a breath. But then you got older. And it got harder. Another step. She was close again. Not touching me, but near enough to feel like gravity was shifting. I could feel it rising, that moment just before something irreversible. The crash before the kiss. The breath before the ruin. Her hand hovered near mine. And then she asked quietly, if I asked you to stay, what would you say? My heart stopped. She didn't blink. And I didn't answer. If I asked you to stay, what would you say? That question hung between us like a match waiting to drop. I wanted to answer. I wanted to say yes. Or God, please. Or I already have. But the moment never let me. Because that's when I heard it. A ringtone, muffled, persistent. Her phone again, vibrating somewhere near the sink. Elena froze, her breath catching like she'd just been slapped. She turned away quickly, walking toward the sound. I stayed rooted, heart pounding. She glanced at the screen, didn't pick up. But her expression shifted. Not guilt, not fear. Something quieter. Something like dread. I stepped toward her. Is it him again? She didn't answer right away. No, she said finally. It's your dad. The words stopped me cold. He's been calling me all week, she added, voice soft. Says he wants to see me. That he made mistakes. I stared at her. You didn't tell me that. No, she admitted. Because I didn't want to believe I was still affected by it. Silence. A very different kind of silence this time, heavier, real. He thinks we're still something, she said. Or could be. I didn't tell him you were here. You should, I said, before I could think better of it. I know, she said. But I didn't. Then she turned to me, and everything in her face shifted. The playful confidence from earlier gone. All that was left was someone tired of pretending. There's something else, she said, quieter now. He told me why you stopped coming around after we split. I frowned. What? He said, you were upset with me. That I made you uncomfortable. That I crossed a line. I felt the words like a punch. I never said that. She watched me carefully. I wanted to see you, I said. I wanted to come back. I just didn't know if I was allowed to want that. Her eyes softened, just barely. And yeah, I hated myself for it, I added. But not because of you. Because of how he would have made it sound. Because of what people would think. A long silence stretched between us. Then she said, barely above a whisper, he lied to keep you away. I nodded, and she took a step toward me. That's what I needed to know. The power between us shifted then, not in dominance but in clarity. Like we both saw the same thing now. The same betrayal. The same permission. But before anything else could be said, the doorbell rang. 3 sharp knocks. We both froze. I looked at her. She looked at the door. Neither of us moved. Are you expecting someone? I asked. She shook her head. We didn't speak. The air was suddenly too tight, the hallway too small. The doorbell rang again. Louder this time. The second doorbell chime echoed like it didn't belong in this house anymore. Elena didn't move. Want me to get it? I asked, already knowing the answer. No, she said quietly. If it's him, I don't want him seeing you here. That hit harder than I expected. She stepped toward the door, then stopped, her hand gripping the edge of the wall like she needed it to stay upright. Do you want him back? I asked. My voice came out lower than I meant. She turned to look at me, not startled, not offended, just tired of lying to herself. No, she said. I just didn't want to be alone with my own mistakes. I nodded. I understood that more than I wanted to admit. The silence returned. The kind where everything is raw and suspended like skin just after a burn. I need to tell him, she whispered, more to herself than to me, that I'm not who he remembers, that I don't want to be. And what about me? I asked. What do you see when you look at me now? Her eyes didn't flinch. I see someone I never should have let go quiet, she said. Someone who saw me before I saw myself. That cracked something in me. Elena, I said, stepping forward. I can leave, if that's what you need. But I can't go back to pretending this didn't happen. That I don't. I trailed off. The word stayed stuck in my throat. But she understood. You don't have to go, she said. Another knock. Louder this time. We both looked toward the door again. But this time, she turned her back to it. Elena. She walked to me. Slowly. Intentionally. Her fingers reached for mine. She didn't kiss me. She didn't touch my face. She just stood there, hand on my chest, like she was making sure I was real, like she'd been imagining this moment too long to trust it. I won't pretend anymore, she said. And I knew then, it didn't matter who was outside that door. This moment, her here now, was real. You're not who I expected to fall for, I said. But you're the only one I kept thinking about. That was the confession. Not poetic. Not neat. Just honest. She rested her forehead against mine. I don't know what comes next, she whispered. I don't either, I said. But I'm not leaving this time. Her hand curled around mine. The doorbell rang again. Neither of us looked. The doorbell stopped ringing. Whoever was outside gave up, or maybe understood on some invisible level, that the version of us they thought existed didn't live here anymore. Elena and I stood in the stillness, her fingers still laced in mine, her forehead resting against my chest. I could feel her pulse against my ribs. Steady now. Grounded. She didn't rush to speak, and neither did I, because we both knew. Everything had already been said. We sat on the floor after that. In the hallway, backs against the wall, plates of cold food untouched in the kitchen. The tension that had once pulsed between us now felt different. Not gone, but no longer pulling us apart. I used to think this house was haunted, she said quietly, legs folded under her. Not by ghosts. Just by versions of me I never wanted to meet again. I looked around at the hallway, the chipped paint, the uneven floorboards, the faint scent of time still lingering from the oven. "And now?" I asked. She smiled. Faint but real. "Now it feels honest." We talked for a long time. About my dad. The damage, the quiet manipulations, the years of pretending everything was fine because it was easier than calling out the lie. We talked about silence. And loneliness. And wanting things you weren't sure you were allowed to want. And when the clock passed midnight, and the air grew cool, she asked, "Would you stay? If there wasn't a line to cross anymore?" I didn't answer with words. I leaned over and rested my head against her shoulder. She leaned back into me like it was the most natural thing in the world. That was the answer. Weeks later, I went back to that hallway to replace the light entirely. We painted the walls. She changed the color. Something softer, warmer. Something that didn't pretend to be what it used to be. My dad called once more. She let it ring. Then blocked the number. No fanfare. No drama. Just a quiet ending. We didn't tell people right away. Not because we were ashamed, but because this wasn't something we owed the world. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a fantasy. It was two people, flawed, healing, learning how to see each other after all the pretending stopped. We don't live in that house anymore. But every now and then, when the light hits the kitchen window just right, I remember how it began. How a broken cabinet turned into a conversation. How silence turned into something more honest than words. How she wore that green dress, the one that wasn't meant for my dad, but somehow felt like it had always been meant for me.